This podcast is brought to you by Racing Thread, Formula One clothing for literally any occasion. Their clothing features subtle, evocative, embroidered designs of your favorite F1 moments. From Ricciardo's McHorsey entrance to Kevin's first pole. From Pierre and Yuki's bromance to Inspector Seb. The moments are endless. Whether you're out to dinner with friends, watching the race at home, or cheering in the grandstands, gone are the embarrassing sponsor logos. Instead, Racing Thread is F1 clothing you're comfortable wearing anywhere. Right now, Dirty Driving listeners can get 15% off Racing Thread's entire range of t-shirts, sweatshirts, polos, and bucket hats using the code Dirty Driving. Head over to racingthread.com to shop F1 racewear for anywhere. It's chaos. It's a different type of Sunday scary. It's your newest obsession. It's Dirty Driving, a Formula One podcast. Welcome back to another episode of Dirty Driving. You're back with Katie. It's me. It's been a long bye week. Let me just say that. I'm absolutely pissed that F1 decided to give us the first race of the season, then make us take a break, and then put us back into it. That's not cool. It's at the end of the day, it's just not cool. I want back-to-back races at the start of the season. Get the ball rolling, get the season going, show me what is happening. I don't want a week off, but nonetheless, we had a week off and a lot has happened in this past week. So let's dive into the weekly news that you need to know before we head to Saudi Arabia this weekend. The first is that F1 has announced a new 4-year deal with the Austrian Grand Prix promoter, allowing for racing there until 2027. This year's Austrian Grand Prix, which is a sprint race weekend, will mark the 10th anniversary since the race's return in 2004. I don't love that it's named the Red Bull Ring or that there's always a sea of Max Verstappen fans, but this venue is 100% on my list. I think we can all be real and say that every venue is on our list, but I will say the Red Bull Ring is up there. I feel like there's always some punchy racing. And not only that, but it's in a beautiful setting of the rolling hills of Austria, which allows for some steep elevation changes on the track, which I think feed into that punchy racing. So it's on the list for sure. Would love to get there. I think maybe the goal is to get there by 2027. I know they'll probably re-sign that venue, but I think that should be a good goal to get there before 2027. I've got 4 years to do it. Up next is a little touch about power unit things, updates, if you will. So in 2026, we will see a new generation of power units come to fruition, featuring more power from the electrical side of the unit, plus higher efficiency and better safety measures. So in the next couple of years, before we hit 2026, for sure this year and next year, and maybe a sprinkle into 2025, we're going to hear the constructors talking about where they are going to source their new engines from, and the constructors that manufacture engines will give us some updates about how progress is going. So Williams have announced that they will decide on their 2026 power unit supplier this year. And then Christian Horner confirmed that McLaren have expressed interest in Red Bull engines starting in 2026. In other news, Mercedes drafted and published a letter to us fans. It started with Bahrain hurt, period. Fuck yes, it did. It hurt. Because we suffered all last year as Mercedes fans. Well, it got better in the end, but we suffered still. And then we came into this season thinking, okay, fresh start. We've got this. Mercedes has this. Lewis is going to take some wins. George is going to get another win. It's going to be great. But Bahrain showed us that we're not there yet. It went on to say, we know it hurt you, our fans too. Your passion and support are so important in driving us forward, and we know that we feel the same pain. I hope you feel the same pain, because I'm heartbroken. I'm absolutely heartbroken over it. But I will say that Toto came out and said that the team needs to be bold with future updates. And then Andrew Chauvelin, the team's trackside engineering director, said that the team is going to look at more radical changes. In Bahrain, the team experienced significant tire degradation and a general lack of pace. So Andrew went on to say that clearly we've got something that's not in the right place that we need to work on, and the raw pace of the car is not good enough. I fully believe that Mercedes will be back on top one day. I just do not think it's going to be this year, unfortunately. That's my dirty take on Mercedes. And we are just going to have to wait and see what happens next year. And who should have really written us fans a letter is Ferrari. We could have had this letter like 5 years ago. But no, we haven't gotten a letter. So Mercedes does get some brownie points for saying, we get it, it hurts, we're not doing our best, and we know we can be better. So props to them. In other news, speaking of Ferrari, I should say, Charles Leclerc's bad luck continues. He will be taking a grid penalty for Saudi Arabia, a 10-place grid penalty, because Ferrari replaced the energy store and the control electronics on Leclerc's engine before Bahrain, and then also made a change, the third change, after his retirement at Bahrain. Teams are only permitted to use 2 control electronic components per season without penalty. So not only does he have a penalty for the second race of the season, a 10-place grid penalty in the second race of the season, but if he takes any more control electronic components, he will continue to have grid penalty after grid penalty. This is not a good start. I don't know what else you want me to say. Mercedes and Ferrari are not having good starts, and I really thought we were going to turn it around this year and for both of them and show us what they had, but they're not there. Again, maybe they should have written the letter to their fans and apologized for the way that they've been behaving. That's just it. It's apology for the way that they have been behaving. There is some hope, however. Team principal Frederick Vasseur came out and said that he is completely convinced that the Ferrari car concept can compete with Red Bull. He highlighted Ferrari's pace in qualifying as a reason to be optimistic moving forward, with Leclerc lapping just a 10th slower than Max on the first Q3 run. He went on to say, I never saw a car able to match the pace of another one in quali and not be able to in the race. It's a matter of setup and some choices on the car. It's not a matter of concept at all. So maybe Ferrari will eke it out and they've got the correct concept and they'll be battling Red Bull this weekend. It's only the second race of the season. We've only got one race down and the teams are still trying to figure their shit out. So we never know what's going to happen. And so we kind of just have to go into it expecting the unexpected. So maybe Ferrari has it. Hell, maybe I was wrong and Mercedes has it too. Other notes is Stroll's ongoing recovery. It was clear that he was not 100% in Bahrain, and he even admitted to that today, Thursday. But he still took 6th place in Bahrain. So now that he's had 2 weeks of extra recovery, where will he end up in the order? Will he be higher than 6? Will he be on podium? Will we see Lance Stroll taking podiums all season long with Alonso? This weekend is more telling for me than last weekend was, because now they've had some time to digest, get through the first race jitters, and really come to this race prepared and ready to go and prove to us what they can do. Max Verstappen is arriving late to the weekend. He missed all of today, Thursday, due to battling a stomach bug earlier this week. So we'll see him tomorrow on track for practice, and hopefully he's feeling okay and does a decent job. And then the other little note that I wanted to make is that Lando has denied that McLaren are in a crisis, and he shut down any rumors about his future. Lando made the wrong choice. That's just it. Do I feel bad for him? Not really. Your choice is what your choice is, and you've got to live with those choices. McLaren, on the other hand, I also don't feel bad for, but I've said that before. And this is just karma for the way that they treated Daniel and everything that went down with Oscar Piastri. I'm sorry to repeat myself there, but it's true, and that's how I feel about McLaren. I'm pissed at them, I'm pissed at Zach, and that is that. This weekend, we are racing at the Jeddah Corniche circuit for a 50-lap race. The circuit was designed by Carsten Tilk and is composed of 27 corners. It's the most corners on the calendar. It runs counterclockwise and races under the floodlights. The circuit is a huge challenge in terms of the high-speed corners and close walls. This means that even the slightest adjustment that the drivers make could end up with a barrier run-in. The original track had its qualms. It was challenging in terms of the corner sequences and speeds, but it also had really tricky sight lines where drivers were unable to see the exit of the next corner in some spots. So, in response to driver feedback, the walls at turns 8, 10, 14, and 20 have been moved to improve visibility. Which, thank God, because last year and the year before, it's scary. It's more scary to watch this race than maybe any other race. Potentially Monaco goes up there on scariness too. Thank God they listened to driver feedback. Thank God they made the changes. I'm really excited to see what the drivers have to say this year about the track. In addition to moving some walls, rumble lines, similar to the lines on the highway when you go out of the lane, have been added to turns 14 and 20 to ensure track limits are kept. Finally, the chicane at turn 22 and 23 has been tightened, with speeds expected to be anywhere from 30 to 50 kilometers per hour lower. The inaugural Grand Prix took place in 2021 as the second to last race paired with Abu Dhabi. And last year in 2022, it took its new home in the schedule as the second race of the season paired with Bahrain. In last year's race, we saw Max Verstappen win with the Ferrari boys, Charles and Carlos, joining him on podium. If you remember, Mick Schumacher did not race following his huge crash that he suffered during qualies, and he went to the hospital before returning to his hotel room. Thank God he was okay. And then Checo also took his maiden pole, but only managed to pull off a P4. So I'm excited to see what he's got to bring this year, especially because he basically just came out and said that he's in it to fight Max Verstappen, and we'll have to see what Red Bull says about that. The first race in Bahrain prioritized traction and rear tire performance, but Jeddah is a completely different test altogether. It tests speed. So my hope and my prediction is that we'll see 3 teams up on the podium. I'm going for a Red Bull, Ferrari, and an Aston Martin podium. I'd like to see a little diversity up there. And no longer is there really a differentiator between the midfield and the back markers, considering 5 teams dropped out of Q1 in Bahrain. So we'll have to see how the bottom 6 teams shape up. My big bet, McLaren will be out of the points, and I'm thinking that Zhou can pull it off and both Alfa Romeos can be within the points. I will also say my big bet is that Nick de Vries will do much better this race than he did last race. That's everything you need to know heading into Saudi Arabia, and we'll just have to see what this weekend has in store for us F1 fans.
Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Dirty Driving. Until next time, stay dirty. Looking to get the kiddos in your life interested in Formula One? This series includes the ABCs of Racing, which teaches concepts about racing with Red Racer as your guide. The 34-page book is full of gorgeous illustrations inspired by actual tracks and racing situations around the world. The series also includes the book All About Race Cars, a guide to Formula One race cars. Red Racer and Roxy the Engineer walk you through all the ins and outs of F1 in this 40-page book with beautiful illustrations teaching STEM facts about F1 cars. Red Racer Books is on a mission to give kids in the U.S. and beyond a global perspective on sportsmanship, diversity, science, and technology. Right now, Dirty Driving listeners can get 20% off Red Racer Books' entire series using the code Dirty Driving. Head over to redracerbooks.com to buy the kiddos in your life, or the adults, their new favorite book.